The phone call came at 3 a.m. A 15-year-old girl sits in the darkness of her one-room apartment in Hell's Kitchen, listening to her mother cry in the next room. She walks to the piano, her only friend, her only escape, and her fingers find the keys. The melody that pours out is haunting, desperate, beautiful. She doesn't know it yet, but this moment will define everything. The pain, the abandonment, the survival instinct that will carry her to the top of the music industry will also lead her into scandals that nearly destroy everything she's built. 20 years later, that girl would become one of the most celebrated artists in R&B history. She would win 16 Grammy Awards, sell 90 million records, and inspire a generation. But the cost? Nobody talks about the real cost. Behind the Grammy speeches and the empowerment anthems, behind the piano performances and the standing ovations, Alicia Keys was hiding something, multiple somethings. And in 2025, the carefully constructed walls are finally crumbling. The predators she escaped, the marriages she allegedly destroyed, the compromises she made with oppressive regimes, the image of authenticity that was anything but authentic. This isn't just another celebrity story. This is about what happens when a child prodigy becomes a target, when talent meets exploitation, when survival requires sacrifices that haunt you for decades. Are you ready to see behind the curtain? Because once you know the truth about Alicia Keys, you'll never hear her music the same way again. From Hell's Kitchen to Heaven's Gate. January 25th, 1981. Hell's Kitchen, Manhattan. A baby girl named Alicia Cook entered a world that seemed determined to crush her before she could stand. Have you ever wondered what it takes to survive in one of New York's most dangerous neighborhoods as a child? The answer shaped everything Alicia would become, and everything she would hide. Her parents separated when she was just 2 years old. 2. Can you imagine being that young and already experiencing the fracture of your family? Her father, Craig Cook, a flight attendant, walked away. He left. Just like that, Alicia and her mother Teresa, a paralegal and part-time actress, were alone in a one-room apartment at Manhattan Plaza, subsidized housing where dreams came to suffocate. But here's what nobody talks about. That abandonment carved something deep into Alicia's soul, a wound that would bleed into every relationship, every decision, every controversy that would follow her into superstardom. When your father leaves before you can form memories of him, what does that do to your ability to trust? To love? To understand boundaries? Psychologists have studied the impact of early childhood abandonment for decades. The research is clear and devastating. Children who experience parental abandonment before age 3 develop attachment disorders that affect every relationship they have for the rest of their lives. They struggle with trust. They sabotage healthy relationships. They're drawn to unavailable partners because abandonment feels like home. Keep this in mind, because when we get to the Swizz Beatz scandal, when we examine Alicia's pattern of choices, this childhood wound becomes the key to understanding everything. Teresa Augello recognized the danger immediately. Her daughter was growing up surrounded by drugs, violence, and desperation. The streets of Hell's Kitchen in the 1980s weren't the gentrified neighborhood you see today. They were brutal. Crack epidemic, gang violence, prostitution on every corner. This was survival. So Teresa made a decision that would change music history. Piano lessons. At 7 years old, Alicia's tiny fingers touched those keys for the first time. And something extraordinary happened. She was a prodigy, a natural. Her teachers watched in amazement as this child played compositions that adult students struggled with for years. Beethoven, Chopin, Mozart. The classical masters found new life through the fingers of a black girl from the projects. But why was she so good? Have you considered that music wasn't just a talent for Alicia, it was an escape route? While other children played outside, Alicia practiced for hours. The piano became her sanctuary, the only place where she had complete control, where nobody could hurt her, where her father's absence didn't echo quite so loudly. By 12, she wasn't just playing other people's music anymore. She was composing, writing her pain into melodies, transforming her trauma into art. The classical training merged with the R&B and soul her mother played constantly. She was creating something entirely new, a sound that would eventually redefine contemporary R&B. She attended the Professional Performing Arts School in Manhattan, studying vocal music and theater with kids who would become Broadway stars and Hollywood actors. Then came the moment that revealed just how exceptional she truly was. Alicia Keys graduated as valedictorian at 16. She was accepted to Columbia University. The Ivy League wanted her. But something else happened at 15 that would nearly destroy her before she ever had a chance to succeed. The predators at Columbia Records. Here's what they don't want you to know about the music industry. It's a hunting ground. And in 1994, when 15-year-old Alicia Keys signed with Columbia Records, she became prey. Think about that number for a moment. 15. She was a child, legally unable to vote, drink, or sign a contract without parental consent, and Columbia Records saw dollar signs wrapped in a vulnerable package they could mold, manipulate, and manufacture into whatever would sell the most units. This pattern repeats throughout music industry history. Young girls with extraordinary talent get signed by major labels, then systematically destroyed by executives who see them as products rather than people. The list goes on and on. Each one entered the industry as a child. Each one was exploited, manipulated, and traumatized in ways the public never fully understood. What happened next should horrify you. The executives at Columbia immediately began their assault on Alicia's identity. They wanted her hair blown out and flowing, not the natural texture that grew from her head. They insisted she wear short, revealing dresses. Remember, she was 15. They told her to lose weight. Can you imagine being 15 years old, already struggling with all the insecurities that come with adolescence, and having grown men in suits tell you that your natural appearance isn't good enough? But it got worse. So much worse. Columbia brought in their stable of established songwriters and producers. They dismissed the songs Alicia had written, the compositions that came from her soul, her pain, her authentic experience. They wanted her to be like everyone else. Another cookie-cutter pop star in a market already drowning in manufactured personalities. You need to be the same as everyone else, they told her. The same. They looked at this once-in-a-generation talent and wanted to sand down every edge that made her special. Alicia later described driving to the studio with dread in her chest. Dread. A teenage girl should be excited about recording music, about seeing her dreams come true. Instead, she felt like she was driving toward her own execution. What does that tell you about what was really happening in those sessions? For 4 years, from 15 to 19, Alicia fought. She refused to record songs she didn't believe in. She refused to become the manufactured product they demanded. Have you ever tried to stand up to authority figures as a teenager? Now, imagine doing it when your entire future, your only escape from poverty, depends on their approval. The standoff ended in 1998, when Columbia dropped her. They gave up on Alicia Keys. The label that had signed her as a 15-year-old prodigy decided she wasn't worth the trouble because she wouldn't conform, wouldn't submit, wouldn't become what they wanted. It could have been the end. Most artists never recover from being dropped by a major label, but sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is actually the door opening to your destiny. Liberation and the birth of a legend. Enter Clive Davis. The legendary music executive who had just been forced out of Arista Records was starting something new, J Records. And he saw in Alicia Keys exactly what Columbia Records had been too blind and arrogant to recognize. Davis didn't want to change her. He wanted to unleash her. In 1998, Alicia signed with J Records, and for the first time in her professional life, she had something revolutionary: creative freedom. She could write her own songs, produce her own material, present herself authentically. The chains were broken. Freed from Columbia's restrictions, Alicia poured everything. All the pain, all the abandonment, all the years of fighting for her identity, into creating her debut album. She wrote songs that processed her experiences with survival, love, and self-discovery. Songs that would redefine R&B for a new generation. On June 5, 2001, Songs in a Minor was released, and the music industry exploded. The album debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, selling 236,000 copies in its first week. For a debut artist, playing piano and singing about real emotions in an era dominated by manufactured pop and slick production, the lead single reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 6 weeks. But here's what made it truly revolutionary. Alicia was a 20-year-old woman playing classical piano and singing with raw emotion about the complexity of love. How you can recognize someone is bad for you, but be unable to walk away. The music video showed her with her signature cornrows, playing a Yamaha piano, establishing a visual aesthetic that was completely her own. Songs in a Minor would eventually sell over 12 million copies worldwide. Critics praised its sophistication, how Alicia seamlessly blended classical piano, jazz influences, and contemporary R&B in ways that felt organic rather than forced. Then came the 44th Grammy Awards in 2002. Alicia Keys won 5 Grammys, including Best New Artist, Song of the Year, and Best R&B Album. At 21 years old, she stood on that stage vindicating every decision she'd made to fight Columbia Records and wait for the right opportunity. She had won. The girl from Hell's Kitchen had conquered the music industry on her own terms. Her follow-up album, The Diary of Alicia Keys, released in December 2003, sold 618,000 copies in its first week and debuted at #1. By age 23, Alicia Keys had sold over 20 million records, won 9 Grammy Awards, and established herself as one of the most important voices in contemporary music. But victory came with a price nobody was prepared for, and the cost would nearly destroy everything she'd built. The scandal that changed everything. Alicia Keys was at the absolute peak of her career. Multiple Grammy Awards, millions of records sold, respected as one of the most important voices in contemporary music. Then, the rumors started, and they were explosive enough to bring everything crashing down. Alicia Keys was allegedly involved with producer Swizz Beatz. That name might not mean much to you, but here's what you need to know. Swizz Beatz was married to singer Mashanda Tifrere. They had a son together named Kasim Jr., born in 2006. The alleged affair became the scandal that dominated every gossip blog, every entertainment news show, every conversation about Alicia Keys. Because the woman who sang about self-respect and female empowerment was now being accused of being a homewrecker. Let's examine the facts carefully, because the truth is complicated and disturbing. Alicia and Swizz had known each other professionally for years. He'd produced tracks for her albums. They moved in the same music industry circles. But in 2008, something shifted from professional to personal. Here's where it gets murky. The timeline remains disputed. Different parties offer conflicting accounts of when Swizz's marriage actually ended versus when he and Alicia became romantic. What's undisputed is this. In 2009, while Swizz was still legally married to Mashanda, he and Alicia were publicly together, photographed at events, clearly in a serious relationship. But wait, there's more. Swizz had also fathered a daughter named Nicole with British singer Johanna Sebastian in 2008. Another woman, another child, all while allegedly pursuing Alicia and still married to Mashonda. In May 2009, Mashonda had had enough. She took to Twitter to publicly air her grievances. She accused Alicia Keys of being a homewrecker, of contributing to the destruction of her marriage, of causing unimaginable pain to her and her young son. The accusations went viral. For the first time in her career, Alicia faced massive public backlash. People called her a hypocrite. How could the woman who built a career on authenticity and self-respect participate in the destruction of another woman's family? Alicia initially remained silent. She refused to engage in the public drama, refused to defend herself against Mashonda's accusations. Some interpreted her silence as guilt. Others saw it as dignity and refusal to feed the media circus. But here's the question nobody wants to ask. What really happened? Did Alicia knowingly pursue a married man? Did Swizz lie to her about the state of his marriage? Or was this a case of willful blindness where Alicia convinced herself of a convenient truth? Remember what we discussed about childhood abandonment? About how children who lose a parent early develop attachment disorders that draw them to unavailable partners. This pattern reveals deeper truths about who we are and what we're running from. In later interviews, Alicia admitted that when she first met Swizz years earlier, she hadn't been attracted to him. Their connection developed gradually over time, she claimed. And by the time they became romantic, she believed his marriage was over. Believed. That's the word that carries all the weight. Whether that belief was genuine or convenient, self-deception remains the question that haunts her legacy. The marriage and its aftermath. Despite the controversy, despite the public condemnation, despite the accusations and the scandal, Alicia Keys and Swizz Beatz moved forward with their relationship. Some saw it as true love conquering all obstacles. Others saw it as stubborn pride, a refusal to admit that maybe this wasn't the right choice. Swizz's divorce from Mashonda was finalized in 2010. On July 31, 2010, Alicia and Swizz married in a private ceremony on the Mediterranean Sea. The wedding was intimate, attended only by close friends and family, far from the media circus that had surrounded their relationship. Alicia was already visibly pregnant, having conceived their first child before the marriage. This detail didn't escape public notice. She was pregnant with a married man's baby. Even if Swizz's divorce was finalized by the wedding date, the pregnancy proved that their physical relationship had begun while he was still legally married. On October 14, 2010, she gave birth to their son Egypt Daoud Deen, named after the country where Swizz had proposed. The name carried symbolic weight. Egypt represents ancient civilization, wisdom, and rebirth. Perhaps Alicia saw their relationship as a rebirth, a chance to build something new from the ashes of the scandal. In December 2014, they welcomed their second son, Genesis Ali Deen. Genesis, meaning beginning, origin, creation. Another symbolic name suggesting new starts and fresh chapters. But the blended family situation was extraordinarily complex. Swizz brought 3 children from previous relationships: Kasim Jr. with Mashonda, Prince Nasir with Nicole Levy, and Nicole with Johanna Sebastian. Alicia became stepmother to all 3, with all of them calling her Ummi, Arabic for mother. Think about what that required. Being a stepmother is challenging under the best circumstances. But being stepmother to the children of the woman whose marriage you allegedly helped destroy, that's a level of complexity most people can't imagine. Yet Alicia embraced the role, posting photos with all the children, attending their events, genuinely trying to build relationships with them. Then something remarkable happened. something that nobody saw coming. Years after the initial scandal, after the accusations and the pain and the public condemnation, Alicia, Swizz, and Mashonda reconciled. They didn't just co-parent civilly, they became close enough to write a book together. In March 2018, they released Blend, The Secret to Co-Parenting and Creating a Balanced Family, detailing their journey from anger and pain to forgiveness and cooperation. The book was honest about the challenges, acknowledging the hurt and betrayal while focusing on how they'd chosen to prioritize the children's well-being over their own egos and resentments. Photos emerged of the trio vacationing together with all their children, presenting an image of modern family dynamics that seemed almost too good to be true. Mashonda posting birthday tributes to Alicia thanking Mashonda for her grace and forgiveness. The three of them appearing at events together, smiling, presenting a united front. It seemed like a redemption story, proof that people can grow, heal, and choose forgiveness over bitterness. Proof that even relationships that start in controversy and pain can evolve into something positive. The reconciliation was praised by many as mature and admirable. They'd taken a painful situation and transformed it into something that benefited everyone, especially the children. They'd shown that blended families could work, that forgiveness was possible, that people could grow beyond their worst moments. But in 2025, new rumors erupted. Claims that Swizz had cheated on Alicia and fathered a child outside their marriage. The pattern repeating. The man Alicia had allegedly taken from his first wife was now reportedly doing the same thing to her. The rumors spread rapidly on social media, with many pointing out the irony. What goes around comes around. People commented, "She took someone's husband, now hers is cheating on her. Maybe now she understands how Mashonda felt." Both Alicia and Swizz publicly denied the rumors, calling them completely false and emphasizing their commitment to each other and their family. Swizz posted photos of him and Alicia together with captions about love, loyalty, and family. Alicia remained mostly silent but appeared unbothered in public, continuing to post about her work and her children. Whether the denials were truthful or damage control remained unclear. But the speculation highlighted an uncomfortable truth. The shadow of how their relationship began continues to haunt them 15 years later. Can a relationship that starts in controversy and pain ever truly escape its origins? Or does that foundation crack everything built upon it? These are questions that Alicia Keys has to live with every day. The no makeup movement controversy. In May 2016, Alicia Keys made another decision that would dominate conversations about beauty standards, authenticity, and female empowerment. She announced she would no longer wear makeup in public. For many celebrities, this might have been a minor personal choice. For Alicia, given her carefully constructed image of authenticity, it became a movement. The decision came after a photo shoot where she felt disconnected from the heavily made-up woman staring back at her in the mirror. She wrote a powerful essay explaining that she was tired of covering herself up, tired of pretending to be perfect, and wanted to show her natural self to the world. Her essay resonated with millions of women. She wrote about feeling imprisoned by beauty standards, about the exhaustion of maintaining an image, about wanting to be accepted for who she really was without enhancement or alteration. For Alicia, going makeup-free was about radical self-acceptance and rejecting beauty industry pressures that told women they needed cosmetics to be acceptable. Her first major public appearance without makeup came at the 2016 MTV Video Music Awards, where she hosted the entire show with a completely bare face. The choice was bold and potentially risky. Award shows are all about glamour, about being camera-ready, about meeting impossible beauty standards. The reaction was immediate and polarized. Many praised her courage and authenticity, calling her a role model for young women who felt pressured to meet unrealistic beauty standards. Celebrities including Gwyneth Paltrow and Gabrielle Union, posted their own no-makeup photos in solidarity, using hashtags like #NoMakeup movement. Articles were written about how Alicia was starting a revolution, challenging the beauty industry, empowering women to embrace their natural faces. But criticism was equally vocal and raised some uncomfortable questions about privilege and performative activism. Some argued it was easy for a beautiful, wealthy celebrity to reject makeup, since she had access to professional skincare treatments, chemical peels, laser treatments, facials, and dermatologists that most women couldn't afford. Her natural face was the result of expensive interventions that weren't available to average women. Others pointed out the privilege of being able to make such a choice without professional consequences. Most working women, especially women in customer-facing roles, couldn't show up to jobs makeup-free without judgment, criticism, or even termination. Teachers, lawyers, news anchors, corporate executives, women in these roles face explicit and implicit pressure to wear makeup as part of professional presentation. The most cutting criticism came from those who saw the no-makeup stance as performative and hypocritical. They noted that Alicia still had her eyebrows shaped and filled, her skin professionally treated with expensive procedures, her hair styled and her clothes designer. She wasn't truly showing herself as nature made her. She was showing a carefully curated version of natural that still required significant money, time, and beauty labor. Critics on social media were harsh. She acts like she rolled out of bed, but she's got a dermatologist on speed dial and spends thousands on skincare. Natural with professional lighting, styling, and a glam squad standing by. Try being actually natural. No treatments, no facials, no expensive products. Then talk to me about authenticity. The debate highlighted something important about celebrity activism. It's often performative, offering the appearance of challenging systems while still benefiting from them. Alicia could claim to reject beauty standards while still maintaining her status as a beautiful woman through expensive interventions most people couldn't access. Alicia defended herself against accusations of hypocrisy, explaining that the no-makeup choice was personal and about her relationship with herself, not a judgment on women who chose to wear makeup. She emphasized that skincare and self-care weren't the same as covering yourself up with cosmetics, and that her message was about wellness and self-love rather than meeting external beauty standards. But the controversy revealed something deeper: the impossible standards female celebrities face. Criticized for wearing too much makeup, criticized for wearing none, criticized for getting cosmetic procedures, criticized for aging naturally. Unable to make any choice about appearance without it becoming a political statement dissected and judged by millions. And perhaps that's the real point. Alicia Keys, like all women in the public eye, exists in a no-win situation where every choice about her appearance is viewed through multiple lenses: feminism, beauty standards, privilege, authenticity. There's no right answer, no safe choice, no way to please everyone. Activism and the Saudi Arabia controversy. Throughout her career, Alicia Keys has positioned herself as a conscious artist committed to social justice and activism. She co-founded Keep a Child Alive in 2003, an organization providing medicine and support to families affected by HIV and AIDS in Africa and India. The organization's annual Black Ball fundraiser has raised millions of dollars, with Alicia using her celebrity connections to attract major donors and supporters. She's been vocal about racial justice, women's rights, LGBTQ+ equality, and various humanitarian causes, cultivating an image as someone who cares about more than just record sales and Grammy awards. She's performed at benefits, spoken at rallies, used her platform to amplify marginalized voices. But in March 2024, something happened that exposed the contradictions and compromises inherent in celebrity activism. Alicia hosted her Women to Women Summit in Diriyah, Saudi Arabia, during International Women's Day. The event was meant to celebrate women's empowerment and featured performances and discussions about female achievement. The marketing promoted it as a groundbreaking moment, bringing messages of female empowerment to a place where women desperately needed to hear them. Critics immediately pointed out the hypocrisy of hosting a women's empowerment event in a country with one of the worst records on women's rights in the world. Saudi Arabia only allowed women to drive in 2018, just 6 years before Alicia's event. The country maintains male guardianship laws that require women to obtain permission from male relatives for basic activities like travel, marriage, and accessing health care. Women who try to escape abusive situations are often imprisoned or forcibly returned to their families. The Saudi regime has been accused of numerous human rights violations, including the imprisonment of women's rights activists like Lujan al-Hathlul, who was tortured for advocating for women's right to drive. Journalist Jamal Khashoggi was murdered and dismembered by Saudi agents in 2018 for his criticism of the government. This is the regime Alicia Keys chose to partner with for a women's empowerment event. Activists argued that Alicia's participation legitimized the Saudi regime and allowed them to use her celebrity for reputation laundering, the practice of using cultural events and celebrity appearances to improve international perception while continuing oppressive policies at home. Human rights organizations released statements condemning the event. They pointed out that while Alicia performed for wealthy Saudi women who could afford tickets, women's rights activists sat in prison for advocating for the very freedoms Alicia's event supposedly celebrated. The criticism was scathing. She's taking Saudi money while Saudi women are imprisoned for demanding basic rights. This isn't empowerment, it's propaganda. She's allowing herself to be used as a tool of oppression. Alicia defended the event, claiming that change happens through engagement and conversation rather than boycotts and isolation. She argued that Saudi women deserve to see powerful female role models and that her presence could inspire them to continue fighting for their rights. In interviews, she said, "You can't create change by staying away. You have to be willing to engage, to have difficult conversations, to show up even in places that make you uncomfortable." But many felt this was naive at best and complicit at worst, that taking Saudi money to perform, undoubtedly a substantial amount, while women in that country remained oppressed, was fundamentally unethical, regardless of the stated intentions. Critics pointed out that the women who actually need empowerment, the activists, the prisoners, the ordinary Saudi women suffering under oppressive laws, weren't at Alicia's event. The audience was wealthy, connected, privileged Saudi women who already had more freedom than most women in their country. The controversy highlighted the difficult terrain celebrities navigate when engaging with authoritarian regimes. Does participation constitute support? Can you claim to empower women while accepting payment from a regime that oppresses them? Where is the line between engagement and complicity? These questions don't have easy answers, but they reveal the contradictions in celebrity activism, the gap between stated values and actual choices, between public image and private compromises, legacy and current status. As of 2025, Alicia Keys is 44 years old and remains one of R&B's most accomplished and respected artists. She has sold over 90 million records worldwide, won 16 Grammy Awards, and established herself as not just a singer, but a pianist, songwriter, producer, actress, and Broadway composer. Her influence on R&B and pop music is undeniable. Alicia brought classical musicianship back to mainstream R&B at a time when the genre was dominated by programmed beats and minimal live instrumentation. She proved that audiences craved authenticity, emotional depth, and technical skill, paving the way for artists who blend genres and prioritize musical craft. Her success as a self-contained artist who writes, produces, and plays instruments on her own records challenged industry norms and inspired a generation of women to demand creative control rather than accepting whatever producers and labels offered them. But here's what we need to talk about: the uncomfortable truth that lives beneath the accomplishments and accolades. Alicia Keys' career has been marked by a consistent pattern: the tension between the authentic person and the carefully constructed image, between the values she espouses and the choices she's made, between the empowerment she preaches and the compromises she's accepted. She escaped predatory executives at Columbia Records only to become entangled in a scandal that hurt another woman and her family. She promotes female empowerment while performing for regimes that oppress women. She champions authenticity while maintaining a curated version of natural that still requires immense privilege and resources. Does this make her a hypocrite? Or does it make her human, flawed, complicated, struggling like all of us to reconcile our ideals with our reality? The truth is probably both. And maybe that's the real story of Alicia Keys. Not the triumphant tale of a prodigy who conquered the music industry, and not the scandal-ridden narrative of someone who got what they deserved. The real story is about a girl who survived Hell's Kitchen, who fought off predators in the music industry, who made choices both admirable and questionable, who built an empire while carrying wounds that never fully healed. The tragedy isn't what happened to Alicia Keys. The tragedy is that we live in a world where a 15-year-old girl can be preyed upon by executives, where female celebrities face impossible standards, where authenticity becomes a marketing tool, and where the cost of fame is measured in compromises that echo through decades. Alicia Keys is still here, still making music, still fighting battles we'll never see, still carrying the weight of being human in a world that demands she be either perfect or condemned. So don't cry when you hear the tragic news about Alicia Keys, because the real tragedy isn't new at all. It's been there all along, hiding behind the piano keys and the accolades, waiting for us to finally see it. The question is, now that you see it, what will you do? What choices would you have made in her position? How do we hold celebrities accountable while recognizing their humanity? And what does Alicia Keys' story tell us about the price of fame in America? Share your thoughts below. This conversation is just beginning. And if this opened your eyes to the reality behind the image, make sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories celebrities don't want you to know.